Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from StreetScores, and man, some things are already starting to heat up as far as the Commanders trying to turn themselves into some serious Super Bowl contenders for this next season. Now, of course, I don't want to skip straight to free agency or draft. I definitely want to take some time to do some videos honoring what the 2024 season was and everything like that. So still been on the lookout for that. But literally just earlier today, on the way to the gym, I saw that the Washington Commanders will be aggressive this offseason. They will be targeting elite edge rushers, wide receivers, and tight ends. There are 5 players we're going to talk about in this video that the Washington Commanders are apparently attached to, according to reports and rumors out there. We're going to dive into all of that and more. And I'm going to give y'all a fun fact at the end of this video, so stay tuned to the end of the video for this. But before you do, make sure you stiff on that like button, stiff on the subscription button, and stiff on the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Be on the lookout, because just because the Commanders season is over does not mean StreetScores season is over. Y'all already know me, man. If anything, I do my most work and my best work during the off season, so I'm be hitting y'all with mock drafts. We still got to do like a team weaknesses video, like to break down our biggest weaknesses and rank them in what order. We got to take a look at the entire free agency class of all of our different weaknesses. We got to take a look at the entire draft class, everything, man. Anything off season related, I have y'all covered with daily videos, even some days multiple videos. And we will still not only be doing live streams, we'll also still be doing call-in show live streams throughout the off season as well. So make sure you stay tuned for all of that. And without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this video. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so shouts out to Bleacher Report, because all of this that we're going to talk about today started from this. I'm not just pulling stuff up out of nowhere again. This was sort of like a almost breaking news type of thing, which is why I'm talking about it right now. Because again, I really want to take some time to truly honor and show the utmost respect for the season that we just had. I don't want to immediately move into the 2025 offseason, but this was just too fun to not get into. Y'all know me, man. I'm a GM at heart. I mean, I love the games, especially now that we actually win them, but I've always been a GM at heart. The offseason has always been my favorite part of the season. Even going all the way down to college, I'm a Georgia Bulldog guy, but my favorite part of the entire process is recruiting. And so this is just like, this is when I'm in my mode. So once I got this information right here, I was like, man, I gotta talk about it. So again, we're gonna do some, like, I'm even working on a video to break down every single record that Jaden Daniels broke this past season as a rookie and everything like that. Like, that's gonna be a video. We're gonna talk about which guys we should and shouldn't re-sign, so be on the lookout for all of that. But today we're gonna talk about something that Bleacher Report mentioned today, and they said, should a top tier pass rusher like Myles Garrett or Maxx Crosby become available in a trade, the Commanders will probably make an offer. The same could be true if a receiver like Deebo Samuel or Garrett Wilson hits the trade market. Washington may also consider making a play for tight end Kyle Pitts, who has been underutilized by the Atlanta Falcons ever since his rookie season. Even if Zach Ertz is retained, and he already said that he doesn't want to retire, so then now it's up to the Commanders. We know Zach Ertz wants to return. He said that he and Jaden Daniels, I mean, the sky's the limit. They're just scratching the surface of what they can do, and I like that. I truly believe that as well. So it's just up to whether the Commanders want to keep him. If they do, this article from Bleacher Report still feels like even with Zach Ertz returning to the Commanders, they still could end up targeting Kyle Pitts. Providing Daniels with a tight end who can stretch the field would aid the second-year quarterback significantly. Now let's dive into every player that we've talked about. And I also do want to point out the fact that while we're going through each of these players, I'm going to give y'all context clues, rumors, or whatever reason why these trades could end up happening, like previous articles where we've been attached to Garrett Wilson and why Garrett Wilson wants to leave the New York Jets. We're going to talk about Maxx Crosby, why he may want to leave the Raiders, and certain articles attaching them to the Commanders. So we're going to talk about that for every player. We're not just going to throw them out there. I'm going to give y'all the stats of each player, give y'all some Pro Football Focus rankings as well, like where they rank as far as grades and stats and things like that, matched up against everybody else in their respective positions. And again, we're not just going to breeze through this and just say, hey, let's trade for Maxx Crosby. I'm also bring y'all other articles, other credible sources that are saying that, hey, it would make a lot of sense for the Commanders to trade for this player, and this is why. We're going to start with Maxx Crosby, the edge rusher from the Las Vegas Raiders. And just to let you know, he finished the season ranked 36th in solo tackles with 25. He ranked 28th in assisted tackles with 10. He ranked 85th in forced fumbles with 0. He didn't get any fumbles, and this is out of all edge rushers in the NFL. He was 23rd in stops with 27, 26th in sacks with 8, 22nd in hurries with 34, 13th in hits with 12, 21 in 21st in total pressures with 54, and then second in batted down passes with 5. And this was a really down year for him, but you could just tell he wasn't in it, man. After the Raiders was just so bad, you could tell they were in rebuild mode. They didn't even have a quarterback to honestly even try to go out there with. Then they traded away Devontae Adams. Those guys were just going through the motion. So I do not believe 2024 Maxx Crosby is who Maxx Crosby will be moving forward. I think he'll buy back in once he goes to a contender. Why not us? And even Pro Football Focus grade, he was ranked 35th out of 211 edge rushers this season with a 74.1 overall grade, and 43rd out of all edge rushers with a 70.1 pass rush grade, and then 24th in a run defense grade with 73. And hey man, we need as much run defense help as we could get, but he's also a really good edge rusher that can get to the quarterback again. This was just a down year. Also, remember that he was the only person on his network show, I forgot exactly what show it was, to pick us to beat the Detroit Lions in that divisional round. Before the game, everybody on that show gave their picks, and that boy Maxx Crosby was like, I'll pick him by myself. I will lone wolf it. And he also highly respects Dan Quinn. Going from this article that's coming from the Las Vegas Raiders themselves, they talked about how Raiders defensive end Maxx Crosby will be tuned in for the Lions game. This is before the game happened. He gave his thoughts on how the game might go on the latest episode of his podcast, The Rush. He said, quote, I feel like the Lions and Commanders game is going to be an effing shootout. Bro, low key. Crosby also highlighted the Commanders defense led by coach Dan Quinn, who previously served as defensive coordinator of the Dallas Cowboys. He said, quote, their run defense has been iffy, but Jonathan Allen has been banged up and just got back. They've had a lot of guys moving in and out, but they have talent. That team is healthy now. They're dangerous, unquote. Crosby believes that Dan Quinn will be ready for his talented opponent. This is, again, before the Detroit Lions game. He said, quote, Dan Quinn is a dog, bro. Dan Quinn is going to be ready. He's one of the best coordinators. Him and Ben Johnson going head-to-head, that's a matchup in its own. I think that's going to be a very entertaining game for sure, unquote. So Maxx Crosby, if you have to worry about does he like Dan Quinn, does he respect Dan Quinn, you don't have to worry about that at all. Also on Friday's Good Morning Football, the odd air these days as the transition of power gets underway. He said, quote, you know, the future of the Raiders, obviously, I think everybody kind of knows what's going on. I mean, like I said, I'm there every morning. We just talked about it, and it's very eerie around there, I would say. A lot of new changes and things like that, unquote. So basically, the Raiders are in an uncomfortable situation. They're clearly rebuilding. They don't look like they're primed to have any sort of postseason success or anything like that. So even Maxx Crosby, saying it out loud, acknowledges the fact that, hey, man, this Las Vegas Raiders thing may be a lost cause. Maybe I should abandon ship and try to get traded somewhere. And so, going to the 33rd team, they talked about Maxx Crosby, his trade value, and which places he could end up going if he gets traded. Trade value-wise, they said Crosby may have had a down year, but that doesn't mean he's still not an extremely valuable pass rusher. Again, I truly believe that 2024 is not indicative of who Maxx Crosby actually is and will be in the future. I feel like, again, for many reasons, he kind of just mailed it in early this season. Crosby still finished the 2024 season with 17 tackles for loss and 7.5 sacks, but finished with just 54 pressures this year, and the fewest he's had in a season since 2020. A lack of talent around him is likely a big reason for Crosby's drop-off in production. I agree with that. Teams definitely double-team him, but it's not like those are bad numbers by any means. Crosby also missed time with an ankle injury this season as well, which is another reason why his stats suffered. Then, out of 3 teams, they said that he could go to the Green Bay Packers, the New England Patriots, or the Washington Commanders, who are the better team of the 3, which is actually pretty crazy. Who would have thought that before the season started, especially over the Green Bay Packers? They said a young star on a rookie deal at the quarterback position can unlock a lot for a team with Super Bowl aspirations. The last 6 Super Bowls featured a quarterback on a rookie deal, showing the flexibility it affords a franchise to go out and make win-now moves while that quarterback is on that rookie deal, getting paid basically pennies on the dollar. Jaden Daniels has quickly proven that he's a quarterback worth building around for the Washington Commanders. He's likely the front runner for Offensive Rookie of the Year award, obviously, and already has the Commanders in the playoffs in his first NFL season. This is, I guess, before we just played the Eagles. The offense could still use a couple of more pieces, but the Commanders' defense is where they could take a big step forward in 2025. It ranked just 23rd in defensive DVOA this season, but it already made a strong start in the building out on that side of the ball by acquiring cornerback Marshawn Lattimore at the trade deadline. The Commanders still have $99 million in cap space this offseason and have enough draft capital, particularly in 2026, to take a big swing on a player like Crosby. A great quarterback on a rookie deal should have the Commanders feeling like their Super Bowl window is already open. A move for Crosby could make them one of the most exciting teams in the entire NFC. I'm definitely all down for Maxx Crosby. I wonder what type of trade you would have to do, like what type of picks you would have to give up. I already know our 29th overall pick in that first round of this upcoming draft, and that shows. When you're having success, you draft late. Even as a draft guy, I'm happy to see my team so good that we're picking 29th overall. But either way, that's our highest pick in the draft. That would have to be a part of package of like with other picks as well to go and get a guy like Maxx Crosby. You can't just throw in one first round pick and get him. You're gonna have to include other picks as well. Now moving on to Deebo Samuel. And he's interesting because I think Cliff Kingsbury could definitely fully unlock his ability. He may not be at the very top of my list of free agents that I want or guys that I would trade for, but we can't deny that he would definitely make us better. The problem is at what cost? We're going to get to that soon. But first of all, when you're taking a look at his stats, he was 49th in targets, 48th in receptions, 46th in receiving yards, 58th in receiving touchdowns, 65th in drops with 5, 39th in yards per reception, though. That's pretty efficient. He was 4th in yards after catch per reception with 8.2. That would be fantastic. I feel like that's the biggest thing Jaden Daniels is lacking in his offense right now. Guys that he can get the ball and they can make something shake and get way more yards than he actually threw for. Really until the last couple of regular season games going through the playoffs, we weren't getting much yak out of anybody. And so Deebo Samuel would be a big help there. And then he was also 48th in passer rating when targeted and 89th in average depth of target. But we're not worried about that. Cliff Kingsbury would increase that himself. And then when it comes to Pro Football Focus grades, he was 51st out of 98 wide receivers with a 70.9, 49th with a 72.1 receiving grade, and then second out of 10 wide receivers in rushing grade with a 66.9. I think he would unlock a new level to this offense. Of course, you have your injury concerns, and it's also how much he's getting paid. But I think if the Commanders feel like it's the right decision, I wouldn't be surprised. First of all, remember that man Adam Peters loves Deebo Samuel. But first of all, we got to start with the Sports Illustrated article from the Washington Commanders, and they said the Commanders have been in need of a number 2 wide receiver, and one could become available this offseason in San Francisco star Deebo Samuel. Bleacher Report writer Alex K believes Samuel could be DC bound during the offseason. So shouts out to Bleacher Report for this one as well. They said Samuel is no stranger to trade rumors, writes K. He requested a trade before re-upping with San Francisco in 2022, and general manager John Lynch revealed that he received calls for Samuel during the 2024 draft. While Lynch stood pat and retained Samuel at the time, he may be more amenable to parting ways with the wideout this offseason. Samuel's value may not be as high after he accounted for only 806 yards from scrimmage and 4 touchdowns on 93 touches this year, his lowest career marks outside of his injury-shortened 2020 season. So this is his worst relatively healthy season he's had since he's come into the NFL. If there were any time to trade for him, it's now, because this is when his value is at his lowest. Honestly, from the 49ers point of view, they should have traded him before this past season. They didn't make it to the playoffs, and they could have gotten more for him last season than they probably could this offseason. However, he's still on the right side of 30 and could be rejuvenated with a change of scenery. Teams like the Washington Commanders and the Pittsburgh Steelers, 2 playoff teams with a notable lack of pass catching depth, might be willing to pay a premium for Samuel. He'd be an ideal addition to any contender's receiving corps as a big-time playmaker who could help with a Super Bowl push. Again, that's coming from Bleacher Report. Also, don't forget, Adam Peters loved Deebo Samuel coming out of the draft. Loved him more than John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan back in January of 2022. When asked to reflect on the 2019 Senior Bowl, he gave an interesting nod to assistant general manager Adam Peters at the time when 49ers worked closely with Deebo Samuel before selecting him in the second round of that year's draft. Shanahan was asked if the Niners foresaw deploying Samuel at running back when he was coming out of South Carolina. Shanahan admitted, quote, "I would like to say we did, but we definitely didn't try him at running back there, and we never really saw it from him in college," unquote. However, Shanahan made a note that Adam Peters that seemed to imply that the assistant general manager in Adam Peters was high on Deebo Samuel from the start. Quote, and to assistant general manager Adam Peters, he was on that Deebo Samuel's physicality from the beginning, and we just found out more about him as we went, unquote. So Adam Peters was the one at the 49ers, in that organization, in that front office, coaching staff, whoever, that was really banging the table for Deebo Samuels. So there's probably could be some strong interest to take him from the 49ers to here. Had a down season for the 49ers. For like Adam Peters could see him potentially balling out with his new team, the Washington Commanders, with Jaden Daniels especially at quarterback. And then also shouts out to motorcyclesports.net for this one, because they said navigating trade talks and team connections as far as Deebo Samuels goes. They said general manager John Lynch's openness to trade offers for Samuel during the 2024 draft hints at the team's willingness to explore opportunities for the receiver's departure. The Commanders, led by former 49ers executive Adam Peters, emerge as an intriguing possibility given Peters' familiarity with Samuel's potential and his connections to the 49ers organization to potentially pull off that trade. So don't be surprised if Deebo Samuel is on our radar. I know some people may be a little bit off on Deebo Samuel, but again, if the price is right, I think he can help us a lot, man. Especially, I mean, Jaden Daniels, and then you already have Terry, and then we'll see about if we end up bringing De'Ami Brown back. I think we should, but he didn't sound very optimistic about it when he was asked about it in his exit interview in the locker room. So we'll see about how that goes. But Deebo Samuel would definitely make this receiver core better. Now moving on to somebody else who will make this receiver core better, and I prefer this guy over Deebo Samuel. That's Garrett Wilson. First of all, let's talk about the stats. He was third in targets out of all receivers in the NFL with 152. He was fifth in receptions with 101. He was 11th in receiving yards with 1,104. He was 18th in receiving touchdowns. 78th in drops, though, with 6. That's not good. 79th in yards per reception. 36th in yards after catch per reception. Another yards after catch help guy. And then 72nd in passer rating when targeted, and 73rd average depth of target. A few of those stats aren't necessarily that good, but hey, third in targets, fifth in receptions, 11th in receiving yards. He's a guy that's used to dealing with a heavy workload, and we could definitely use that to our advantage. And then grade-wise, he was 22nd out of 98 receivers with a 78.9 overall grade, 23rd with a 79.3 overall receiving grade, and then he didn't have a rushing grade because they never really used him like that. He doesn't have enough snaps to get a grade for that. But shouts out to Heavy.com for pointing out the fact that Wilson and Aaron Rodgers were at odds since the training camp. They had some type of argument then, and they never amended it. Going with the article, a heated argument between Wilson and Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers at training camp kicked off what's been another disastrous season in New York, where the record stands at 4-12 with one game remaining in the regular season. So this is right before the postseason started. The Jets' streak of 14 seasons without a postseason berth is also the longest in North American professional sports. Golly. While Wilson and Rodgers may have butted heads, the true blow to the wide receiver's relationship with the Jets may have come when they traded for wide receiver Davante Adams, who was Rodgers' top target during his time with the Green Bay Packers. And I don't see the Jets moving on from Davante after they just used up all of that draft capital to trade for him and pay him all of that money. I feel like between the two, if I'm a Jets fan, I prefer Garrett Wilson long term, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets, just off of pride and ego, be like, we did all of that to get Davante Adams. If we had to choose between the two guys, we're going to pick him after all of that work we had to go through. And then the exact quote from NFL Network's Ian Rappaport, quote, privately, there have been questions regarding whether Rodgers and Wilson can find common ground since they had that blowout during training camp. While Wilson will not publicly say it, those who know him well believe he's been frustrated at the lack of looks from Rodgers while wondering what else he could do to fix the relationship. Is getting open not enough? Those who study the film will notice him being open while the ball goes elsewhere, unquote. So apparently Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson have serious beef. Now, I do want to point out the fact that he's still under contract for the 2025 season coming up, and he could be tagged in 2026 when in doubt. So we'll see about that. Also, going back to Heavy.com, they calculated Wilson's cost for the Commanders potentially. I mean, they literally are saying, hey, and like I said, Bleacher Report is the catalyst for all of this. You have all of these different other articles and reporters and media members and NFL analysts and things like that, national NFL analysts saying, hey, that's why this is how this player can end up going to the Commanders. A lot of people are attaching great players who went out of their current teams to go to the Commanders. This is another one. It's not just coming out of nowhere. And so, calculating Wilson's cost for the Commanders. If the Commanders want to bring Wilson into the fold, it's going to cost them in two different ways. The draft capital they would have to give up in a trade, and the long-term money they'll also have to spend. We can look to recent past for a deal comparable to what the Commanders would be trying to pull off with Wilson. In April of 2022, the Tennessee Titans traded 24-year-old wide receiver A.J. Brown to the Philadelphia Eagles in exchange for a 2022 first-round pick and a 2022 third-round pick, which is likely the price the Commanders would have to pay for Wilson. Although they may be able to turn that second pick, that third-round pick that the Titans that got in return for A.J. Brown, they believe that we could actually make that a lower pick, so maybe a first and a fourth or something like that. I'm for sure willing to do that for Garrett Wilson. And then now going to fansided.com. They said that Jaden Daniels can take a massive leap if the Commanders acquire Garrett Wilson. Again, these are coming from multiple sources. I'm not just making this up. Despite being a rookie, Jaden Daniels already looks like one of the most dynamic quarterbacks in the NFL. He's on his way to winning the NFL's Offensive Rookie of the Year award and is on the verge of leading the Washington Commanders to an unexpected playoff berth. So this is before the playoffs started. A big reason why Daniels has had much success as he has is Terry McLaurin, a clear-cut wide receiver one. But outside of McLaurin, there isn't much there. This is before De'Ami Brown had a couple of good games, though. Washington's second leading pass catcher is 34-year-old Zach Ertz, who might not even be back next season. Guys like Noah Brown and Olamide Zaccheaus aren't threats either, and Noah Brown can't stay healthy. Adding Wilson to an offense already including McLaurin and Daniels would make Washington's offense an impossible one to defend against. It would also help Daniels continue to develop into one of the game's best quarterbacks. I agree. And remember, we couldn't cover him to save our lives in joint practice this past offseason. During training camp, we had the joint practice with the Jets, and Garrett Wilson was giving any and everybody work no matter who was covering them. I'm interested to see if Marshawn Lattimore could do anything with them, but based off of what we've seen from Marshawn Lattimore and the very small sample size we've gotten from him, I think Garrett Wilson will be uncoverable to him as well. So also, not only would Garrett Wilson make our offense way better by being here and being uncoverable, even by top corners in the NFL, even by number one corners. I mean, him and Terry McLaurin would be like 1A, 1B. I can't say Garrett Wilson's a wide receiver too. He's too good for that. He deserves way more respect than that. But he would also make our DBs better by having to practice against Terry McLaurin and Garrett Wilson every day, all off season. Our corners would have no choice but to be better. Now, moving on, there's also a good tight end that we may target. We're moving on to Kyle Pitts. Well, good as far as like production, not necessarily, but when we're talking about high level potential, high ceiling, ridiculous potential that just has not been tapped into the correct way for the past few years since the Falcons drafted him very, very high in the first round. They have completely mismanaged him and everything like that. But either way, even while being mismanaged, at least this season was better than last season, because this season he was 16th in targets out of all tight ends, 22nd in receptions, 13th in receiving yards, 13th in receiving touchdowns. He was 28th in drops though with 4. But he was 4th in yards per reception with 12.8, 9th in yards after catch per reception with 5.8. Those would all really, really help our offense right now. He was 29th in passer rating when targeted, though, and a lot of that is because of his drops. And then he was 6th in average depth of target, especially out of tight ends. That's pretty good. Now, Pro Football Focus grade-wise, they felt like he was 33rd out of 37 gradable tight ends. They thought he was awful with a 59.6 overall grade, but they felt like he was 29th in receiving grade with a 63.9, just to let you know. Now, moving on, I mean, again, the main reason that you would try to make a move for Kyle Pitts is because of the potential there. He's an absolute freak athleticism-wise. Remember coming out of Florida, I've always been hating on him because he went from the team I hate the most in college, the Florida Gators, to the team I hate the most in the NFL, the Falcons. So I've had every reason to hate on this guy every step of the way, but we can't deny his ridiculous athleticism. Remember coming out of the draft, he had a 9.66 relative athletic score, and remember, that was 33rd out of 929 tight ends drafted into the NFL from 1987 to 2021. This guy is a pure athletic freak and a mismatch. His size was okay. That was the thing holding him back grade-wise. If he was like stronger and bigger, he would have been a 10 out of 10. but his explosion was great. His speed was elite, and then his agility was good. But I mean, he was a huge mismatch in college. He at times has been a huge mismatch at the NFL level as well. And I feel like if anybody can figure it out, it would be Cliff Kingsbury. They could turn this guy into a ridiculous weapon. And then even when going against us back in 2021 when we played the Falcons, he had 4 receptions for off of 9 targets, which is not really good. But I mean, he only caught like less than half of the passes he was thrown to. But he had 50 reception yards and an average of 12.5 yards per catch against us. Then in 2023, off of 6 targets, he had 4 catches for 43 yards and a receiving touchdown. And then when we just played them in this 2024 season, back December 29th, off of 5 targets, he caught 4 of them for 44 yards and a touchdown with an average of 11 yards per catch. I mean, he doesn't get the ball very often, but when he does, he matters. It's efficient. 11 yards per reception is pretty big. That's pretty significant. And I think, again, if anybody could tap into Kyle Pitts' ridiculous talent, natural born, God-given ability, it's Cliff Kingsbury, man. I feel like, you know, I forgot the Falcons head coach that they went to become the Steelers, a offensive coordinator that mismanaged them. And then the Falcons just mismanaged them again this year. I feel like if anybody would have finally unlocked what people thought Kyle Pitts could be coming out of the draft, it would be Cliff Kingsbury. And again, just to go back to the Bleacher Report article that started all of this, they said Washington may also consider making a play for tight end Kyle Pitts, who has been underutilized by the Atlanta Falcons ever since his rookie season. Even if Ertz is retained, providing Daniels with a tight end who can stretch the field would aid the second-year quarterback significantly. I mean, imagine, even if Kyle Pitts never lives up to his draft hype, imagine somebody that's just that freakish of an athlete just on the field running around. How immensely helpful that could be to Jaden Daniels and even a guy like Terry McLaurin, making sure that he's open more often, because you gotta account for Kyle Pitts. I don't care the drops, I don't care the disappointing seasons. There's no way a defense could ignore somebody that big, that fast, that quick. You just can't. So, hey man, I think this just depends on the price again. What are we talking about? Money, trade value, and things like that. What's the price? Because they already picked up his 5th-year option, I believe, and so you have to pay that. He'll be a $10.8 million cap hit in 2025. And if you want to trade, you're going to have to trade for him. He's not a free agent. And it just depends on what that price is right there. But hey, man, if it's for something really cheap, like some mid-round pick or something like that, I would take a chance on it. I'm not going to lie. Now, moving on to the last and final person we're going to talk about today, Myles Garrett. And now, granted, literally in the middle of me recording this video, a report came out that says the Browns will not be trading star pass rusher Myles Garrett this offseason, not even for 2 first-round picks, says general manager Andrew Berry. Now, of course, he could just be saying this and they still end up trading them, but I just want to be completely transparent with y'all. In the middle of recording this video, before I got to Myles Garrett, I saw the notification on my phone and I had to adjust accordingly. We're still going to talk about it, but just keep this in mind. I wanted to tell y'all this ahead of time rather than I feel like I'm clickbaiting y'all and then telling y'all at the very end of after I hype you up on all of this Myles Garrett stuff, and then at the end I tell you what just happened. So I want to tell you this at the very beginning of talking about Myles Garrett. It also goes to say that the team is open to signing an extension with Myles Garrett as well, but Garrett did say that he wants a clear path to contention in Cleveland and doesn't want to be a part of a rebuild. And I just honestly believe the Browns cannot give him that. We'll see, though. Now, stats-wise, he was 43rd in solo tackles, 68th in assists, but he was 3rd in forced fumbles with 3 out of all edge rushers. He was 10th in stops with 35. He was 3rd in sacks with 14, 2nd in hurries with 56, 8th in hits with 13, and 1st in total pressures with 83. He's still arguably, and even statistically, the best pass rushing edge rusher in the entire NFL, best pass rusher, period. And then when it comes to grade wise, he was 2nd out of all edge rushers with a 92.3. He was 2nd out of all edge rushers, 211 of them to be exact, with a 92.8 pass rush grade. And then he was 11th in run defense grade with a 78.4. This is not just some random. This is a top tier pass rusher, edge rusher, run stopper, edge setter, everything that we need. We need to improve in every single one of those ways. He would be able to help you in all of those ways just in one person. And remember, Back like a month ago, superstar pass rusher Myles Garrett reportedly met with the Cleveland front office this week to learn more about the team's plan to avoid a full rebuild. If the Browns don't have a clear path to contention in the eyes of Myles Garrett, don't be surprised if he tries to join another team. Of course, they ended up meeting with him, and then he kind of calmed it down and was like he's chilling. But I mean, please tell me in the comment section right now, where is this path for the Cleveland Browns to be able to contend in 2025 right now? Please tell me that. I mean, just look at that division alone with the Ravens, Steelers, and the Bengals. Even outside of that, where are the Browns going? How are the Browns going to be good this year? Please tell me in the comment section. But even going back to heavy.com, they talked about how thanks almost solely to one disastrous financial decision, the Browns could be in the market to deal 6-time NFL All-Pro and 2023 NFL Defensive Player of the Year Myles Garrett if the price is right. Enter the Washington Commanders, who are lacking an elite edge rusher, but have the money, draft picks, and most importantly, the kind of contending team that can entice a trade for Garrett. The Browns are not only coming off a 3-14 season, their worst season since going 0-16 during Garrett's rookie year in 2017. That's crazy. But also staring down $92 million in guaranteed money still owed to quarterback Deshaun Watson over the 2025 and 2026 seasons, and a total salary cap hit of $145.2 million over those seasons. And then continuing with the article, they said what Garrett might cost the Commanders in a trade. First, take into account the money Garrett is scheduled to make over the final 2 seasons of the 5-year, $120 million contract extension he signed back in July 2020. $19.7 million in 2025 and $25 million in 2026. The Commanders have a projected $100 million in salary cap available in 2025 and can easily handle taking on a contract like that. So the financial aspect is highly doable. The other aspect of the trade is a little more complicated. What do the Commanders give up to get an edge rusher who could not only keep them among the NFC's contenders but propel them into another level? Well, the best comparison we can take from recent memory would be the deal that the Miami Dolphins made to get wide receiver Tyreek Hill from the Kansas City Chiefs in March of 2022. To get Hill, the Dolphins sent the Chiefs their 2022 first round pick, 2022 second round pick, 2022 fourth round pick, and then the 2023 fourth round pick and sixth round pick. The Commanders could almost cut, copy, and paste that deal and hope the Browns are smart enough to take the bait. In that scenario, it would equal Washington's 2025 first round pick, second round pick, and fifth round pick, and then 2026 fourth round pick and sixth round pick as well. We have the MO. It's just if the Browns want to do it, or even if Adam Peters feels like giving up all of that trade value is worth it for a guy like Myles Garrett. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of do, because I mean, now, great, if we weren't this good this fast, then I'd be like, nah, we need to keep as many draft picks as possible. But we are in the Super Bowl window right now, like we talked about earlier. A quarterback that's playing at an elite level on a rookie deal, getting paid pennies, is the widest your Super Bowl window is going to be. And we're ready. We were just one game away from the Super Bowl. I think you go all in and do whatever you can to go ahead and win right now. You saw what the Texans did, trading for Stephon Diggs and Danielle Hunter all in the same offseason. It didn't necessarily work out for them, but CJ Stroud isn't Jaden Daniels. So I'm telling you right now, I think we could go out there and make some blockbuster trades, some blockbuster free agency signings. And I mean, you know, I'm a big draft guy, and I love mock drafts. I love having as many picks available as possible, but also love winning. And so I'm okay if we only have a handful of draft picks, if that means we trade it for maybe like a combination of Myles Garrett and Garrett Wilson somehow. Who knows? Maxx Crosby and Deebo Samuel. Maybe go ahead and throw Kyle Pitts in there as well. I would love any combination of 2 or 3 of these guys that we've talked about in this video. I feel like that would immediately propel us into Super Bowl contenders, and honestly, maybe even the favorites to make the Super Bowl out of the NFC side of the NFL. I just really feel like we're just a couple of those pieces away, and then the way that Adam Peters and Brandon Sawson are going to finesse the contracts to where even when we're going and signing other free agents to fill in other positions, we're not going to have to pay them ridiculous money to do it. So I feel like it's not even going to be like we're going to be top heavy with not a lot of depth. I trust this team to figure out depth. I trust this coaching staff to get the most out of the depth, and I feel like we're still, no matter what draft picks we have going into the draft, I feel like we're going to find some great talent there as well. So I think you go all in on guys like this. That's just me personally. Please let me know how you feel in the comment section. But that's the end of this video. Please make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release informative and opinionated video just like this one. If you made it this far in the video, I really appreciate you and salute you. Like I promised, your random fact for today. This is coming from my daily Washington Commanders calendar. This is January 28th today. The Commanders defense posted the NFL's best per possession statistics in 2022. Opposing teams posted league loads of 5.2 plays and 26.3 yards and 2 minutes and 21 seconds of possession time on their drives against Washington that season. So just a reminder that the 2022 Washington football team defense was absolutely insane. We're trying to get back to that, but with better coaching and even more talent. Let's do it. But yeah, man, before you dip up out of here, please make sure you leave a like on this video. Stiff arm that like button. And of course, let me know in the comment section how you feel about all 5 names mentioned in this video. You can even rank them from 1 through 5, who you want the most, who you want the least. So just straight up say, I want this guy, but I don't want these guys. Let me know exactly how you feel about all of the names mentioned in this video. Or if there are any other names that are like top free agents or top trade targets that we could go after this offseason that I didn't mention in this video that you really want to target, let me know. I know guys like T. Higgins are out there, DJ Reed, the corner from the Jets. So let me know how you feel about all of that. And again, make sure you do not leave this video without leaving a like. I appreciate y'all. Catch y'all later. I'm out.